6 a.m. Sirens in my driveway. Tow truck blocking my pristine 1967 Ford F-100, the one I spent 15 years and $50,000 restoring to perfection. HOA queen. Delilah Thornfield stands on her flawless lawn in her robe smirking.
That eyesore is gone! Tow it now!
She yells for the whole neighborhood. I step out barefoot in pajamas, wallet ready.
Step aside, sir. HOA violation, we're impounding it.
I flip open the wallet. A gold shield catches the morning light. Complete silence. The cop's radio chatter stops mid-sentence. Tow truck engine idles. Even the birds seem to hold their breath. Delilah's mouth opens, but no words come out as she stares at what I'm holding. 25 years carrying this badge taught me one thing. Timing is everything. What's the most ridiculous thing your HOA has done to you? Drop your wildest Karen story below. I read them all. Let me back up and tell you who I am, because it matters for what comes next. My name's Diesel Hartwell, and that destroyed Lamborghini wasn't some trust fund toy. I grew up in Detroit, where my mom worked double shifts at the Ford plant just to keep the lights on. When she got cancer 3 years ago, I spent every penny I had on her treatment. The chemo, the specialists, the experimental drugs insurance wouldn't cover. I built my cybersecurity company from scratch. Started in Mom's basement, hunting corporate fraudsters while she recovered upstairs. Every rejected proposal, every sleepless night, every small victory, it all led to that moment when I could finally afford something beautiful. The Huracan's V10 engine purring to life became my morning meditation. The smell of rich leather mixed with Mom's coffee brewing downstairs, pure heaven. The satisfying crunch of gravel under Pirelli tires as I pulled into Willowbrook Estates. This was success. This was freedom. Then I met Constance Whitmore, and my American dream hit a brick wall named Karen. Picture a woman who inherited daddy's plumbing fortune but acts like she founded Microsoft. 58. Blonde highlights that cost more than most people's rent. Married to Harold, some investment banker who's been neutered into submission. Constance has ruled our HOA for 8 years because nobody else wants to deal with her particular flavor of suburban fascism. Her house? Biggest on Maple Street, naturally. Complete with passive-aggressive lawn signs. Quiet zone, respect your neighbors, and my personal favorite, community standards matter. Translation: I decide what's acceptable around here. The trouble started week 1. I'm heading to work at 6 a.m., early but not unreasonable, when my doorbell rings. There's Constance in designer workout gear clutching a manila folder like it contains nuclear launch codes. We need to discuss your vehicle. No hello. No welcome to the neighborhood. Her motivation was simple: preparing Willowbrook for a Neighborhood of the Year award that could boost property values 20%. Week 2. Formal violation notice tucked under my windshield wiper. Heavy paper with raised gold seal, expensive between my fingers like premium stationery. Non-conforming vehicle storage. Commercial style vehicle aesthetically inconsistent with community standards. Commercial style? Lady, this truck is registered as a classic antique. I called her that evening. Could hear typing during our conversation. Acrylic nails machine gunning across a keyboard like rapid gunfire. Rules are rules, Mr. Mitchell. This isn't a trailer park. The HOA meeting was held in the community clubhouse, 23 residents scattered across folding chairs that squeaked like dying mice every time someone shifted. I brought documentation, classic vehicle registration, insurance certificates, restoration photos showing every bolt and gasket. Delilah waved it away like swatting flies. We can't make exceptions. What's next? Food trucks? RVs? Vote. 4-1 against my truck, with 1 abstention. Harold Kessler, retired bank VP and board treasurer, couldn't look me in the eye during the entire discussion. Later I'd learn why. She had dirt on his son's sealed DUI arrest. Walking to my truck afterward, elderly neighbor Rosa Delgado approached me, smelling like vanilla and fear. "Don't let her win," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "She's targeting anyone who might organize resistance. Danny Morse got cited for his American flag placement. Evelyn Park forced to remove bird feeders. She's got something on everyone." That night, I did what 25 years hunting fraudsters taught me: follow the money. I requested HOA financial records, public information in Texas. Sitting at my kitchen table under harsh LED light, papers spread like case files, I discovered systematic billing inflation. Constance thought she was dealing with another pushover neighbor who'd fold under pressure. Instead, she'd just declared war on someone who destroys corrupt systems professionally. Game on, princess. Constance moved fast. 3 days after our little sidewalk standoff, I get a certified letter announcing an emergency HOA board meeting about my ongoing violations. Emergency? My car had been parked legally in my driveway for exactly 1 week. The meeting was Thursday night at Constance's house. Naturally. Her turf, her rules, her psychological warfare. I showed up at 7 p.m. sharp to find the holy trinity of suburban tyranny assembled around her dining room table. Constance looked like she was chairing a war crimes tribunal. Martha Kowalski, retired third-grade teacher turned professional busybody, clutched a notepad like she was documenting genocide. Vernon Buckley, insurance adjuster with the charisma of damp toast, nodded along to whatever kept him breathing. The overpowering smell of vanilla candles couldn't mask what this really was, a kangaroo court. Mr. Hartwell, Constance purred, sliding a manila folder across her polished mahogany table with the precision of a chess master. We have documented evidence of multiple violations. I opened the folder to find photos of my Lamborghini, normal photos, except they'd been shot from bizarre angles to make it look like I was blocking the sidewalk. In one picture, they'd actually moved garbage cans closer to my car to fake an obstruction. Amateur hour photography meets professional-grade deception. This vehicle creates visual disruption, Martha recited from her notes like she was reading a grocery list. The color is aggressive. Aggressive? I bit back a laugh. Ma'am, it's Arancio Borealis. That's Italian for orange. We don't need foreign language lessons, Constance snapped, her mask slipping for half a second. The board votes $500 daily until compliance. Problem was, I'd been visiting my sister in Dallas that entire weekend. My truck hadn't moved in 4 days. Delilah had just filed a false police report with fabricated evidence. My FBI training kicked in like muscle memory. I submitted a formal records request to the HOA, completely legal under Texas Property Code Section 209.005, which requires associations to provide financial records to homeowners within 10 business days. Most people don't know this right exists, but it's the fastest way to expose HOA corruption. The records arrived in a cardboard box that smelled like old paper and secrets. Spread across my kitchen table under harsh LED light, 3 years of financial documents told a story that made my hands shake with controlled rage. Delilah's real estate company had systematically purchased distressed properties in 4 neighboring communities, but only after aggressive HOA campaigns drove down values. The pattern was surgical. Target vocal residents, manufacture violations, cite them into legal fees, watch property values crash, then buy low with cash offers. It's called targeted neighborhood destabilization, something I'd seen organized crime families use in New York. I installed professional-grade security cameras around my property, the kind that capture license plates at 50 yards in moonlight. The dash cam went into my truck next, recording everything with timestamp accuracy that would hold up in federal court. Then I parked exactly where the property survey showed my driveway ended and photographed the position from 6 angles. Documentation is everything in federal cases. Without it, you're just telling stories. Delilah escalated to surprise compliance inspections, showing up at random hours wearing a polo shirt embroidered with HOA enforcement, like she was some kind of suburban sheriff. Her timing was always perfect, just as I was settling into morning coffee or coming home from grocery runs or washing my truck on Saturday afternoons. Checking community standards, she'd say with that practiced smile, measuring my vehicle like a crime scene investigator while neighbors watched from behind curtains. When she suggested I might be happier in a community with lower standards, I used the same calm tone that had worked on mob accountants. Ma'am, I've dealt with actual criminals who were more pleasant than you. Her smile flickered, just for a second, but enough. My security footage revealed something that made everything click. Delilah wasn't measuring randomly. She was hunting desperately for any violation that might stick. The cameras caught her placing a small orange traffic cone behind my truck's bumper, then photographing it as evidence of blocked pedestrian access. She was manufacturing evidence like a corrupt prosecutor building a case on lies. This wasn't petty neighborhood politics anymore. This was organized fraud with a real estate twist, and every FBI instinct I'd developed told me she'd done this before. Rosa knocked on my door that evening, carrying tamales that smelled like masa and hope. "People are scared, but they're watching," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "Harold won't talk, but he looks terrified. Danny stays inside most days now." I learned about their informal resistance network, a group chat where neighbors warned each other when Delilah was making rounds. Retired teacher Evelyn Park forced to remove bird feeders for attracting pests. Veteran Danny Morse cited for an American flag that was regulation size but apparently too prominent. Harold Kessler approached me at the grocery store, his cart rattling as nervous hands loaded organic produce. "There's more going on than you know," he whispered. "She keeps files on everyone. Pictures, financial records, personal details. Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. She destroys people." But Harold didn't understand something crucial. I wasn't just another suburban retiree she could intimidate with clipboard theatrics and manufactured violations. I was someone who'd spent a quarter-century hunting people exactly like her. And federal agents never back down from bullies. We document everything, build ironclad cases, and watch criminals destroy themselves with their own arrogance. Game on, Delilah. Month 2 brought the nuclear option, a formal letter from attorney Bradley Thornfield, yes, Delilah's brother-in-law, demanding immediate compliance or face property lien proceedings. The letterhead screamed expensive with embossed gold lettering, but the conflict of interest stank worse than roadkill in August heat. Daily fines of $200 would begin in 72 hours. That's $6,000 a month for parking my own truck in my own driveway. The letter arrived via process server at 6 a.m., making my neighborhood violation feel like federal racketeering charges. Even the process server apologized. "Sorry, man, this seems like overkill for a truck." I made 2 phone calls that morning. First, to my old FBI partner Marcus Webb for a background check on Bradley Thornfield. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with gold. License suspensions in Arizona and Nevada for ethics violations, specifically representing family members in HOA disputes without disclosure. Here's something that would have saved me months of headaches if I'd known it earlier. HOAs must follow quasi-judicial procedures for fines, just like real courts. Texas Property Code Section 202.004 requires proper notice, hearing opportunities, and appeals processes. Most HOAs skip these entirely, making their fines legally worthless paper, but they're betting you'll pay rather than fight. My second call was to request a formal hearing before an independent arbitrator, a right most homeowners never know exists. The county recorder's office smelled like old paper and broken dreams, fluorescent lights humming overhead while I dug through property records. What I found made my prosecutor instincts sing. Delilah had claimed homestead exemptions on 3 properties simultaneously. Tax fraud. Voter registration cross-checks showed she'd voted in 2 counties using different addresses in the same election. Voter fraud. Both federal crimes that would vaporize her real estate license faster than ICE in Phoenix. I photographed everything with federal investigation precision, building a case file that would make U.S. attorneys weep with joy. Chain of custody, chronological timelines, witness statements, the full federal treatment for suburban fraud. That evening, Rosa organized a resistance meeting in her living room. 7 targeted residents squeezed into space that smelled like vanilla candles and nervous sweat, coffee cups rattling as people shared their stories. Harold's garage door opener was excessively loud during his 6 a.m. commute. Evelyn's garden gnomes violated professional landscaping standards. Danny's motorcycle, legally parked in his own garage, somehow constituted noise pollution. Every target shared one trait: education, financial stability, and the likely ability to spot irregularities in HOA finances. Delilah was systematically eliminating potential whistleblowers. I explained our legal strategy in terms everyone could understand. Document everything, demand proper procedures, then expose her violations of her own rules. Texas allows homeowners to demand independent arbitration. Most don't know this exists, but it stops harassment while creating an official record. Here's where things got interesting. Delilah's behavior shifted into pure desperation mode. She began patrolling like a suburban dictator, complete with official polo shirts and a measuring wheel for maximum dramatic effect. Her white SUV became a neighborhood fixture, engine idling outside targeted houses while she documented imaginary violations. The sound of that automatic transmission whining when she'd speed away became our unofficial alarm system. Our confrontation at the community mailboxes revealed everything I needed to know about her real motivations. When I questioned the legal basis for her harassment campaign, she dropped all pretense. "People like you think rules don't apply to them," she snarled, her practiced realtor smile completely gone. "This is a respectable neighborhood, and we have standards. People like me." The words hung in the morning air like a confession. 25 years investigating financial crimes taught me that when suspects make it personal instead of addressing evidence, they're usually protecting something big enough to destroy their entire operation. Computer searches that afternoon revealed the smoking gun, similar schemes in Arizona and Florida, the exact states where her brother-in-law had lost his legal license. This wasn't amateur-hour neighborhood politics. This was a refined criminal operation that had been perfected across multiple states and was now targeting our community. The final escalation came via certified mail Thursday morning. $3,600 in accumulated fines and attorney fees, with foreclosure proceedings threatened within 30 days. Heavy paper designed to intimidate people into compliance through fear rather than law. But here's what Delilah didn't understand about federal agents. We don't respond to intimidation. We document it, analyze it, and use it to build criminal cases that destroy people's entire lives. As I filed that threatening letter in my expanding case folder, I realized something that made me smile for the first time in weeks. Delilah had just committed the cardinal sin of white-collar crime. She'd put her threats in writing, created a paper trail, and involved interstate commerce through her multi-state real estate operation. She'd just handed me everything I needed to trigger a federal investigation. The only question now was whether she'd realize her mistake before the handcuffs clicked shut. Month 3 brought Delilah's masterpiece, filing a police report claiming my truck was an abandoned vehicle creating public safety hazards. She provided misleading photos, fabricated witness statements, and noise complaints with timestamps that would make federal evidence techs weep with laughter. Her stroke of genius? Scheduling the tow for 6 a.m. Saturday, maximum public humiliation during prime neighborhood coffee hour. I woke to hydraulic whining and diesel exhaust polluting autumn air that should have smelled like freedom. Through my window, I watched the choreographed performance. Tow truck backing up with mechanical precision, 2 uncomfortable patrol officers clutching clipboards, and Delilah positioned on her manicured lawn like Napoleon surveying conquered territory. The sound of gravel crunching under boots echoed as neighbors emerged from houses, drawn to the spectacle like suburban rubberneckers at a highway accident. My pristine 1967 Ford F-100 was halfway onto that flatbed when I made my entrance in jeans and an FBI Academy t-shirt, badge wallet clearly visible. "Gentlemen, I believe there's been a serious misunderstanding." The moment I opened that wallet, everything shifted. The senior officer straightened like someone had shocked him with jumper cables. His partner's eyes went wide, processing what he was seeing. Federal credentials in a suburban tow truck dispute. I handed over my evidence file, organized like federal prosecution exhibits, and watched both officers realize they'd been manipulated into serving as muscle for what was clearly a personal vendetta with criminal overtones. Delilah approached with trademark confidence. "Officers, why the delay? I filed a legitimate abandoned vehicle complaint." That's when I announced, loud enough for gathering neighbors, "Ma'am, filing false police reports becomes a federal crime when it's part of interstate fraud schemes." Her face cycled through confusion, rage, then terror as implications sank in. The tow truck operator, sensing legal quicksand, began unhooking my truck with the urgency of someone who didn't want federal subpoenas in his future. Cell phones materialized as neighbors documented everything with citizen journalist enthusiasm. Rosa watched from her window, coffee frozen mid-sip. Harold stood in his driveway wearing pajamas in shock. Danny emerged from his garage, wrench still in hand. "This is my neighborhood," Delilah shrieked, suburban sophistication evaporating like morning dew. "I have authority here." The senior officer flipped through my evidence file, his expression growing serious as he recognized federal quality investigation techniques. "Ma'am, HOA boards don't have police authority. These are civil matters requiring proper legal channels." Here's what made this moment beautiful. The officer mentioned they'd received multiple suspicious activity calls from this address about various neighbors, all from Delilah Thornfield. Pattern recognition is fundamental to criminal investigation, and this pattern screamed systematic harassment. But then came the mini twist that changed everything. Harold finally found his courage, approaching with trembling hands. "Officers, she didn't just target his truck. She's been extorting the entire neighborhood." His voice cracked with months of suppressed fear. "I'm the HOA treasurer. I have proof she's been stealing from all of us." Dead silence, except for diesel engines idling and hearts pounding. Harold pulled out a manila envelope that had been hidden God knows where. Financial records showing systematic billing fraud, fake vendor contracts, inflated maintenance charges. She's stolen over $300,000 from homeowner dues. The numbers hit like physical blows. Every neighbor's face showed the same calculation. 300 grand divided by 800 families equals serious money stolen from each household. Delilah's terror transformed into pure panic. "Harold, you signed off on those budgets. You're complicit in anything irregular." "Because you threatened to expose my son's sealed juvenile record if I didn't cooperate," Harold shot back, 20 years of banking experience finally overriding fear. "Blackmail is also a felony, Delilah." The senior officer was already reaching for his radio. "Dispatch, we need a detective unit at Willowbrook Estates. Possible financial crimes investigation required." Rosa emerged from her house like a woman possessed. "She charged us $5,000 for emergency tree removal after the storm. There was no tree removal. I watched the lot all week." Danny added, "Lawn service billing for winter months when grass doesn't grow, irrigation repair for sprinkler heads that were never broken." Each revelation hit Delilah like artillery shells. Her perfect suburban kingdom was collapsing in real time, witnessed by the very neighbors she'd terrorized into silence. The beautiful irony? Her attempt to have me arrested had triggered the exact federal investigation she'd spent years trying to avoid. My FBI background meant these officers would take financial crime allegations seriously instead of dismissing them as neighborhood drama. Watching her realize she'd just destroyed herself with her own arrogance was better than any conviction I'd ever secured in 25 years of federal law enforcement. Sometimes the best justice comes when criminals defeat themselves through sheer stupidity and overconfidence. The tow truck pulled away empty, leaving Delilah standing alone on her perfect lawn while her world crumbled around her designer shoes. Harold Kessler looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight when he appeared at my door the next morning. His normally pressed khakis were wrinkled, his face was pale as old concrete, and his hands shook so badly the manila envelope rattled like autumn leaves in a windstorm. "I haven't slept in 2 years," he whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. "Every night, knowing what she's doing to people while I sit there signing checks like a trained monkey." The smell of stale coffee and desperation clung to him as he glanced nervously over his shoulder. He pushed the envelope toward me with hands that trembled like earthquake aftershocks. I can't be Harold the coward anymore. My own grandson asked why I always look scared. Inside were copies that would make federal prosecutors weep with joy. Financial records spanning 3 years, vendor contracts with forged signatures, and email chains that read like a criminal enterprise operating under the guise of suburban governance. "Look at this," Harold pointed to an invoice, his banker's eye still sharp despite the fear. "Monthly pest control during January in Texas. Bugs don't even survive our winters, but we paid $2,800 for imaginary treatments." His finger traced down fabricated line items. Irrigation maintenance for xeriscape areas without irrigation. Pool cleaning for pools that had been filled in before the community was built. The landscaping contract hit me like a physical blow. Delilah's husband's company held an exclusive $180,000 annual deal for services that existed only in Microsoft Word documents. Here's something that would have saved our entire community grief. HOA board members can't legally vote on contracts benefiting family businesses. It's theft under Texas fiduciary law when amounts exceed $2,500. "She's stolen everything," Harold continued, his voice gaining strength like a dam finally bursting. "Property management fees at 15% when industry standard is 8%. Emergency repairs that were never emergencies using contractors who charged triple market rates. Every fraudulent payment traced back to companies with Delilah's DNA all over them. Then came the personal destruction that broke my heart. My son's DUI from when he was 17, sealed juvenile record that somehow she accessed illegally. Threatened to send copies to his employer, his college admissions board, everyone who mattered in his future." Harold's voice broke completely. "Said she'd destroy a good kid's life unless I stayed quiet about missing money." The electronic evidence was prosecutor gold. Email threads discussing vendor kickbacks, deliberate targeting of problem residents who asked financial questions, and coordination with her sister's property management company in Arizona. Wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, the federal hat trick that typically nets serious prison time. One email made my blood pressure spike. The FBI retiree must go immediately. He's trained to recognize financial irregularities and could organize community resistance. Use whatever means necessary for removal. 25 years hunting organized crime taught me that electronic communications with timestamps and metadata are evidence gold mines. Criminals who put their conspiracies in writing typically get the longest sentences because denying documented conversations becomes impossible. Harold revealed the insurance nightmare that would destroy Delilah financially. Directors' and officers' coverage doesn't apply to criminal acts, making board members personally liable for every stolen dollar. Her real estate license required bonding that fraud convictions would automatically void, collapsing her entire business empire. There's more victims than just Willowbrook, Harold added quietly. She bragged about similar operations in Arizona and Florida during private board conversations. This isn't her first rodeo, it's a refined criminal business model. And the timeline crystallized perfectly. 8 days until the next HOA meeting, providing ideal venue for public exposure with law enforcement and media presence, ensuring accountability while preventing evidence destruction or witness intimidation. Harold agreed to full federal cooperation in exchange for immunity, standard practice when lower participants expose upper-level criminals. Game over, Delilah. Federal justice was coming to suburbia, and it doesn't negotiate with neighborhood tyrants. I called Agent Sarah Monroe at dawn Monday, knowing she'd be at her desk with black coffee and the predatory instincts that made her the FBI's best white-collar hunter. Her voice carried familiar skepticism until I dropped the magic words. Organized fraud, multiple states, electronic evidence, and a cooperating witness. The pen clicking stopped. How much time do you need? 7 days. I want her to burn in public. My kitchen table transformed into Federal Command Central. Papers spread like battle maps under harsh LED light. The smell of laser toner and brewing justice filled the air as I applied forensic accounting techniques that had dismantled mob families. Every fraudulent transaction highlighted in yellow became a federal felony count. Every forged signature became evidence of conspiracy. Sarah explained what I already knew from experience. HO, as managing $50+ billion nationally, made systematic theft and interstate commerce issue triggering federal jurisdiction. Translation: Delilah just graduated from suburban bully to federal defendant facing serious prison time. Tuesday brought community mobilization that reminded me why I'd loved federal work. Rosa's living room packed with 12 residents whose stories painted a portrait of systematic criminal enterprise. The coffee was strong, the anger was stronger, and the determination was stronger still. We're not just stopping her, I explained, watching faces transform from fear to hope. Federal penalties typically triple damages. Every stolen dollar becomes $3 back in your pockets. Harold's banking expertise helped calculate individual losses. $847 average per household over 3 years, but federal restitution would mean $2,500 plus recovery per family. The surveillance upgrades felt like old times. Marcus Rodriguez, my former FBI tech specialist, installed recording equipment that would capture every word with federal court admissibility. The backup cloud storage meant even if Delilah tried destroying evidence, prosecutors would have everything needed for conviction. Wednesday, I briefed investigative reporter Janet Crawford over coffee that tasted like victory brewing. Her 15 years covering federal corruption cases meant she understood the stakes. Media presence prevents retaliation while documenting everything for potential trials. I've seen federal takedowns before, she said, eyes lighting up with journalistic hunger. This one's going to be spectacular. The psychological strategy drew on interrogation techniques I'd perfected with corrupt politicians and organized crime figures. Present evidence progressively let suspects lie themselves into federal perjury charges, then watch their arrogance become the rope that hangs them. Delilah's narcissistic certainty would be her downfall. Criminals who believe they're untouchable always provide the best self-incriminating statements. Thursday meant evidence preparation with the methodical precision of federal prosecution. Each homeowner received color-coded packages showing their specific losses with mathematical certainty. Harold practiced testimony until his banking background shone through the fear, transforming him from victim to credible witness who could explain complex financial crimes to juries. Friday brought law enforcement coordination that felt like planning major federal raids. Police Chief Morrison agreed to community relations presence, code for visible law enforcement that prevents witness intimidation. Federal agents would lurk nearby, invisible unless things escalated beyond local jurisdiction. The court reporter would document everything with legal precision, creating transcripts admissible in criminal proceedings. Having professional documentation meant Delilah couldn't claim misquotes or demand retractions when her statements became prosecution evidence. The presentation technology would deliver maximum visual impact, PowerPoint graphics showing stolen funds flowing directly into Delilah's property empire while community infrastructure crumbled from neglected maintenance. Timeline displays would demonstrate how our HOA dues financed her real estate acquisitions with precision that would make federal juries convict without hesitation. Sarah confirmed federal coordination was flawless. Criminal charges prepared for immediate filing, asset forfeiture papers ready to freeze ill-gotten properties, civil restitution lawsuits drafted to recover every stolen penny with federal interest penalties. Saturday evening brought the ritual I'd followed before every major operation. Complete evidence review under kitchen lights that cast long shadows across documents that would destroy someone's life. The familiar pre-raid adrenaline coursed through veins that had carried me through hundreds of federal investigations. The alarm was set for 6 a.m. Coffee prepped for maximum caffeine impact. Evidence boxes loaded in my 1967 Ford F-100, the same truck that had triggered this entire federal investigation when Delilah's arrogance collided with federal law enforcement experience. Harold called at midnight, voice steady for the first time in months. My grandson asked why I'm not scared anymore. I told him because tomorrow the good guys win. Rosa texted the Resistance Network. Justice Day, 7 p.m., Community Center. Bring cameras. Danny polished his Purple Heart medal, planning to wear it when testifying about harassment of veterans. 25 years serving this country earned me the right to park legally in my own driveway. The community was ready. Federal prosecutors were ready. Law enforcement was ready. Delilah Thornfield was about to learn that 25 years hunting criminals had prepared me perfectly for suburban warfare. And federal justice doesn't negotiate with neighborhood tyrants who steal from families and terrorize communities. Tomorrow would be beautiful. Word spread through Willowbrook like wildfire. Tuesday's special HOA meeting promised fireworks. By Wednesday, Delilah was spiraling into pure panic, her usual composed facade cracking like cheap paint under pressure. Her first desperate move was attempting to cancel the meeting entirely. She called Harold at dawn, voice shrill enough to shatter wine glasses. Emergency board vote. We're postponing indefinitely due to scheduling conflicts. But Harold had grown a backbone strengthened by federal immunity agreements. No, Delilah, the meeting happens as scheduled. The intimidation campaign escalated to criminal harassment. Thursday morning brought anonymous letters scattered across doorsteps like suburban anthrax, cheap computer paper that reeked of desperation and fresh printer toner. Troublemakers will face permanent property value consequences, they warned. But postmarks revealed local origin, and my security cameras captured delivery times with federal precision. Rosa received the most vicious threat, a 2 a.m. phone call suggesting foreign neighbors might be happier somewhere more appropriate for their kind. The racial venom made my civil rights prosecutor instincts salivate. Federal hate crime enhancements, typically double sentences. My surveillance system delivered gold Friday night. High-definition footage captured Delilah personally placing threatening notes at 3 houses. Her white SUV gleaming under streetlights like a confession. The timestamp metadata would be prosecutorial gold. Witness intimidation during federal investigation carries automatic prison time. The social media warfare began Saturday when Delilah created Willowbrook Community Values on Facebook, posting carefully angled photos of my truck with claims about declining standards and implications that I was an unstable veteran with violence potential. Her posts accidentally revealed months of unauthorized resident photography, invasion of privacy under Texas law. Rosa's countergroup, Willowbrook Truth and Transparency, exploded with neighbors sharing harassment stories that painted systematic criminal enterprise. Danny's post about his oversized Regulation American flag went viral locally, generating outrage over veteran harassment by suburban tyrants who'd never served anything beyond their own greed. Harold's grocery store confrontation Thursday evening provided the breakthrough we needed. Delilah cornered him between organic vegetables and artisanal pasta, her usual polish replaced by barely controlled hysteria. "You signed every budget, Harold. You're complicit in anything investigators find." Harold's phone captured everything, legal one-party consent recording in Texas. "I know about your son's juvenile record," she snarled, confirming illegal access to sealed documents. "Cross me and I'll destroy his future like I've destroyed others." Federal computer crimes, blackmail, witness intimidation, each recorded word was another year added to her eventual sentence. Her financial desperation became pathetic when FBI subpoenaed bank records revealed $47,000 in cash withdrawals over 3 days. She was liquidating assets faster than a mob accountant facing RICO charges, possibly preparing to flee before indictments materialized. Her real estate license came under state investigation after client complaints about misrepresented values and unethical practices. Monday brought her most audacious move, attempting to withdraw Willowbrook's entire $89,000 operating fund, claiming emergency infrastructure requirements. But federal asset freezes had already locked the accounts, and banks don't release large sums under investigation without federal court orders. The vendor intimidation revealed pure criminal desperation. She contacted local contractors, warning about a dangerous federal agent targeting innocent businesses and advising them to avoid our neighborhood entirely. The strategy backfired spectacularly. Contractors reported intimidation attempts to the FBI, providing additional obstruction evidence. Tuesday escalated to full stalking as Delilah shadowed my daily routine with freight train subtlety. Her SUV appeared outside my coffee shop, grocery store, even the post office when I mailed evidence packages. That distinctive automatic transmission whine became our neighborhood's unofficial danger alarm. But the mini twist that changed everything came Wednesday night. Someone deflated my truck tires and created an oil spill in my driveway. Environmental violations she'd report to authorities within hours. Security footage captured not just Delilah's husband performing sabotage while she served as lookout, but something that made my federal prosecutor heart sing. Their conversation was audible. "Make sure it looks accidental," her voice carried clearly on night air. "We need him gone before Tuesday, or we're all going to prison." Conspiracy to commit property destruction, admission of criminal intent, acknowledgement of federal investigation, all recorded in high definition with federal court admissibility. Thursday brought the legal avalanche that crushes amateur criminals. State Attorney General opened formal HOA investigation, while her brother-in-law attorney withdrew representation citing irreconcilable conflicts. When lawyers abandon ship mid-case, clients usually face unwinnable prosecutions. She hired criminal defense using HOA funds, additional theft charges, while FBI agents executed search warrants on her properties. Black SUVs in suburban driveways attract attention, and news crews arrived within hours for footage that would play nationally. The neighborhood transformation was remarkable. Fear replaced by protective solidarity as residents installed cameras and organized volunteer patrols. Children played outside again while parents shared evidence through group chats. Dogs barked warnings at suspicious sounds, and morning coffee conversations buzzed with anticipation. Friday night, Rosa knocked with fresh tamales and news. She tried bribing the community center manager to cancel our meeting space. He called police instead. Attempted bribery of public officials, another federal felony to add to her growing collection. Justice was coming to suburbia Tuesday night, and Delilah Thornfield had run out of crimes to commit and places to hide. The 6 a.m. FBI raid Monday morning was poetry in motion. Black SUVs rolling through Willowbrook like federal justice on wheels, their engines purring with the quiet confidence of inevitable conviction. Neighbors emerged from houses in bathrobes and slippers, coffee mugs frozen halfway to lips as they watched agents in Navy windbreakers execute search warrants on Delilah's properties with the precision of a surgical strike. The sound of splintering wood echoed across manicured lawns as agents breached her home office door, discovering shredded documents scattered like confetti in garbage cans, a desperate but futile attempt to destroy evidence. What Delilah didn't understand about federal investigations is that digital forensics can recover deleted files from computer hard drives even after amateur destruction attempts. Her public meltdown was spectacular entertainment for the entire neighborhood. She emerged from her house screaming about government overreach and harassment of successful businesswomen, her voice carrying across the subdivision like a suburban air raid siren. Dogs started barking in response, garage doors opened as residents investigated the commotion, and cell phones appeared like magic to document her breakdown in high-definition glory. The media escalation happened faster than expected when local TV crews arrived within hours, tipped off by investigative reporter Janet Crawford. FBI investigates suburban HOA corruption became the lead story on every Dallas news channel, with helicopter footage showing federal agents carrying boxes of evidence from Delilah's house, like pallbearers removing a criminal career's corpse. The story went viral nationally within hours. Federal agents' vintage truck triggers major fraud investigation. Social media exploded with comments from HOA victims nationwide sharing similar harassment stories. Delilah's real estate website crashed from negative attention, her professional headshots now appearing alongside "under federal investigation" headlines. The community transformation was remarkable to witness. Rosa organized a "Support Agent Mitchell" yard sign campaign that spread through the neighborhood like wildfire, blue and white signs sprouting across perfectly maintained lawns like flowers after spring rain. The HOA's precious aesthetic uniformity was disrupted by democracy in action, and it was beautiful. Harold felt emboldened enough to return phone calls from residents he'd been afraid to contact for months. His voice carried new strength when he explained, "The fear is over. Federal prosecutors don't lose financial crime cases with this much evidence." Delilah's isolation became complete as remaining board members resigned rather than face federal investigation. Her real estate clients canceled listings citing reputation concerns, the professional death spiral that typically accompanies white-collar crime charges. Her husband's landscaping company lost 3 major contracts in one day when clients discovered his connection to federal fraud investigations. The legal noose tightened Tuesday when federal prosecutors filed preliminary charges: wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Asset forfeiture papers froze properties purchased with stolen HOA funds, effectively bankrupting her real estate empire overnight. Federal asset seizure is remarkably efficient. Criminals discover their accounts frozen before their morning coffee gets cold. Civil restitution lawsuits filed by major Dallas law firms promised homeowners not just their stolen money back, but federal penalties that typically triple damages. Class action attorneys work on contingency and fraud cases because successful prosecutions almost guarantee substantial settlements. Desperate alliance attempts revealed the depths of her criminal connections. Wiretaps captured late-night calls to co-conspirators across multiple states, her voice getting shriller with each conversation as former allies distanced themselves from radioactive federal charges. "This is federal overreach," she shrieked to anyone still taking her calls. "Deep state harassment of successful entrepreneurs." But the mini twist that sealed her fate came Wednesday evening. Security cameras captured Delilah attempting to break into the HOA office after hours, trying multiple key combinations while looking over her shoulder like a common burglar. She didn't realize FBI agents had already seized all relevant documents, making her breaking and entering attempt both criminal and pointless, the perfect metaphor for her entire scheme. Additional charges included criminal trespass and attempted tampering with evidence under federal investigation. Each new crime added months to her eventual sentence, while providing prosecutors with overwhelming evidence of consciousness of guilt. The community meeting preparation reached fever pitch as residents coordinated through group chats that buzzed constantly with updates. Local police coordinated with FBI for security, while the venue moved to the high school auditorium to accommodate expected crowds. The smell of gymnasium floor wax and anticipation filled the air as volunteers set up hundreds of folding chairs that squeaked like excited mice. Professional audio equipment ensured everything would be recorded with federal court admissibility, while media satellite trucks lined the street outside like a small-town presidential visit. Harold's final revelation came Thursday night, a recorded phone call where Delilah admitted to milking these sheep for everything they've got while using racial slurs about Rosa and explicit threats against me. The recording also captured her discussing criminal intent beyond mere mismanagement, proof of deliberate fraud that would make federal juries convict without hesitation. Friday brought the pre-meeting chaos. Delilah's criminal defense lawyer advised her not to attend, advice she ignored with the arrogance that had characterized her entire criminal career. She arrived with private security guards in a black sedan with tinted windows, claiming federal intimidation, while looking exactly like the criminal defendant she'd become. The community was ready. Federal prosecutors were ready. Law enforcement was ready. Tuesday night would be beautiful. The high school auditorium buzzed with electricity as 623 residents filed into folding chairs that squeaked like excited crickets. The air conditioning struggled with the capacity crowd, while camera flashes from news crews turned the community meeting into something resembling a celebrity trial. I sat calmly in the front row, federal case file at my feet like a loaded weapon waiting for deployment. Delilah entered dramatically through the back doors, flanked by private security guards whose earpieces and serious expressions looked absurdly out of place in suburban educational surroundings. Her heels clicked on polished gymnasium floors with the rhythm of a countdown timer as she marched to the front table, demanding the meeting focus on neighborhood beautification initiatives. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, approaching the podium with evidence folders that felt heavier than handcuffs. "I'm Special Agent Garrett Mitchell, and I have information about criminal activity affecting every family in this community." My footsteps echoed in sudden silence as I spread documentation across the podium, folder tabs visible like prosecution exhibits. The PowerPoint display illuminated behind me showed a timeline that would destroy her life. Delilah's property purchases overlaid with HOA billing increases, revealing systematic theft with mathematical precision. This spreadsheet documents $347,000 in fraudulent charges over 3 years, I announced, watching hundreds of phones record every word. Every household in Willowbrook has been systematically robbed to finance one person's real estate empire. Collective gasps filled the auditorium as numbers became clear. $410 average stolen from each family while their community infrastructure deteriorated from neglected maintenance. Delilah interrupted with desperation masked as indignation. "This is a witch hunt. He's a disgraced agent with a personal vendetta." She demanded proof of credentials, questioning my authority with the hysteria of someone watching their world collapse in real time. I calmly displayed my federal identification, explaining 25 years in financial crimes investigation while maintaining the professional tone that had intimidated organized crime figures. "Ma'am, federal agents don't get disgraced. We get promoted for successful prosecutions." The smoking gun moment arrived when Harold approached the microphone with hands that no longer shook. "I'm playing a recorded confession," he announced, his voice carrying across packed auditorium with banker's precision. Delilah's voice filled the space through professional sound equipment. "These sheep don't understand we're milking them for everything they've got. The FBI guy thinks he's smart, but we'll destroy him like the others." Her laughter echoed over gasps from the crowd while people recorded the recording with phones held high like digital torches. Audio quality was crystal clear, timestamp visible, her own words condemning her with federal court admissibility. Her face turned ghost white as she recognized her voice confessing to federal crimes before 600-plus witnesses and news cameras broadcasting live to thousands more. FBI agents entered through side doors at my prearranged signal. Agent Sarah Monroe leading 3 colleagues in Navy windbreakers that made the auditorium feel like a federal courthouse. Their professional demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaos erupting from Delilah's supporters. "Delilah Thornfield, you're under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice," Agent Monroe announced, Miranda rights echoing through speakers as handcuffs clicked audibly in sudden silence. The community erupted in spontaneous applause that built like thunder, voices shouting, "Thank you, Agent Mitchell," and "Justice for Willowbrook." Cell phones captured celebration while flash photography documented federal justice being served in suburban America. Rosa stood up, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for protecting our neighborhood from criminals." The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes while Delilah was led away in federal custody, her high heels stumbling on carpet as she tried maintaining dignity during perp walk humiliation. Federal prosecutor Maria Santos explained immediate remedies. Full restitution plus punitive damages through asset forfeiture that would recover more money than civil lawsuits typically achieve. Criminal forfeiture is remarkably effective. The federal government recovers assets faster than private attorneys. Every homeowner would receive compensation exceeding their losses, while Delilah's property empire would be liquidated to fund community recovery. Media frenzy exploded as national news crews requested interviews. The story became symbolic of federal agents standing against petty corruption, with my simple statement broadcast nationwide. Citizens deserve honest government at every level, from Washington to suburban HOAs. The community celebration moved to the parking lot where someone had ordered pizza for the crowd. Danny brought his acoustic guitar, leading sing-alongs of patriotic songs while children played and parents decompressed from months of harassment and fear. Harold broke down crying with relief. "My grandson can be proud of his grandfather again." Rosa distributed fresh tamales to anyone hungry, the smell of masa and hope mixing with cool evening air that finally felt like freedom. Legal conclusion came swiftly. 23 federal counts including RICO predicate offenses, state charges for theft and computer crimes, civil suits seeking treble damages. Delilah's criminal empire was dismantled with federal efficiency that left no appeals possible. My vintage truck sat prominently in the parking lot, hood up to display chrome engine that gleamed under stadium lights. Neighbors gathered around asking about restoration details, admiring the vehicle that had triggered federal investigation of suburban corruption. Rose's granddaughter asked to sit in the driver's seat, pretending to drive while adults shared stories of justice finally served. Federal task forces announced statewide HOA investigations, with my methodical documentation becoming the model for future prosecutions nationwide. 6 months later, federal justice had transformed Willowbrook into something resembling actual community. Delilah pled guilty to 18 federal charges, receiving 7 years in federal prison where entitled suburbanites learned that orange jumpsuits don't coordinate with designer handbags. Her husband got 3 years for conspiracy. Federal sentencing guidelines treat financial crimes seriously when amounts exceed $250,000. Complete asset forfeiture sold all their properties, proceeds distributed to victims with mathematical precision that made everyone whole plus federal penalties. Every homeowner received restitution checks averaging $847, more than stolen amounts due to asset appreciation during her criminal enterprise. The mailboxes that once carried threatening letters now overflowed with U.S. Treasury checks, neighbors comparing amounts on front lawns while planning celebration parties. Federal victim compensation provided additional $200 per household, making Delilah's crimes the most expensive mistake of her privileged life. HOA dues dropped to $95 monthly with legitimate budget oversight that Harold managed with banking precision. New board members elected on transparency mandates published monthly financial reports with competitive bidding requirements that prevented future fraud. Professional management companies now require clear conflict of interest policies, lessons learned from federal prosecution. My morning routine returned to peaceful normalcy. Coffee, truck warm-up, waves to neighbors who no longer hid behind curtains. The rumble of that V8 engine sounded like victory laps instead of defiance. Sarah's memory riding shotgun as morning air carried coffee and friendship instead of fear and suspicion. Rosa brought fresh tamales every Friday, neighborhood traditions emerging from shared struggle and federal justice. Danny helped restore my motorcycle, learning investigation techniques while teaching me mechanical skills that Sarah would have loved. Harold found confidence running small business consulting for HOA financial management, his expertise now valuable instead of compromised. FBI consulting work provided purpose and connection to law enforcement family that retirement had temporarily severed. Agent Sarah Monroe partnered with me on contract investigations, my experience valuable for complex financial crimes requiring federal expertise. Retainer positions allowed travel and meaningful work without bureaucratic constraints. The Community Benefit Project made everything worthwhile. Recovered funds established the Willowbrook Community Justice Scholarship, annual $5,000 awards for criminal justice students from local high schools. The ceremony was held in the same auditorium where Delilah was arrested, full circle of justice and education that brought tears to Rosa's eyes. First recipient was Rosa's granddaughter, pursuing forensic accounting degrees to fight financial crimes targeting communities like ours. My neighborhood taught me that ordinary people can defeat criminals with patience, evidence, and courage, she said, accepting scholarship money that had once been stolen from her family. Media legacy continued growing as Janet Crawford's investigative series won state journalism awards. Documentary producers approached about film rights. The agent and the HOA would become educational material for business schools studying fraud tactics and law schools examining prosecution strategies. My vintage truck achieved unexpected fame in Classic Trucks magazine, the F-100 that fought federal crime. Car shows requested appearances, speaker fees donated to scholarship funds that multiplied impact beyond our community. Trophy shelves grew while Sarah's photo remained on the dashboard, co-pilot for adventures she'd have loved. Annual Trucks and Justice car shows now benefit community legal aid, drawing classic vehicle enthusiasts and federal law enforcement retirees who share stories of justice served. The Chrome Awards reflect garage lighting, while memories of shared victories shine brighter than any trophy. Neighborhood Crime Prevention Program evolved from informal surveillance into official FBI-trained community watch. Monthly meetings in the community center feature coffee and crime prevention education that turns neighbors into force multipliers for legitimate law enforcement. Educated communities prevent crime through early recognition of financial fraud, elder abuse, and contractor scams. Personal relationships deepen through shared struggle that created extended family bonds. Sunday barbecues rotate between houses where children play while adults share stories of ordinary people defeating extraordinary corruption. Harold's PTSD improved with purpose, helping other veterans navigate bureaucracy and recognize their rights. The ripple effect spread beyond Willowbrook as 3 other Texas communities contacted me about suspected HOA fraud. Federal task forces investigated 47 similar schemes nationwide, new legislation strengthening oversight requirements that protect homeowners from future suburban tyrants. Final morning ritual remains unchanged but transformed. Starting the truck at dawn while Rosa waves from kitchen windows, Harold jogs past with friendly waves, Danny revs motorcycle engines in playful competition. Engine rumble joins neighborhood sounds of children's laughter, lawn mowers, and life returning to normal with justice served.
$347,000. That's what Delia stole from her own neighbors, while harassing them about drug bundle and gathered gnomes. I keep coming back to that number because it shows you what these things are really about sometimes. It wasn't about community standards or property values. It was about money and keeping people quiet long enough to take it. What gets me about Garrett's situation is how close it came to working. Garrett moved to a quiet retirement community, wants to enjoy his job in peace, and suddenly he's facing forced closure over parking violations that don't even exist. Most people would just sold the job, move away, given up. But 25 years investigating financial crimes teaches you a few things, like how to spot patterns, how to build a paper trail, how to stay calm when someone trying to intimidate you with official letterhead and legal trick. I'm betting some of you have dealt with HOA boards that push too far. Maybe not federal crimes level, but enough to make you wonder who really running your neighborhood. What is your story? Leave it in the comment. And if you want to hear more of this, well, you know what to do. Subscribe button right there. Sometimes patient beat panic every time.